What's up, everybody? I'm Albie13. Okay, today we will be doing touring of ancient Egypt according to the virtual representation of Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, this is a special version of the game that's been modified to allow for an exploration of Egypt, and there's a lot of preset information in the game that has been vouched for and I'm sure painstakingly researched by Ubisoft, excuse me. Um, so that's very, very cool that they offer this for free. Anyone can get this. I'm right now a bird, but I can transform. Uh, oh, I forget the button. So that's I have to refer. Okay, I have to press escape. So I can transform to a person and explore Egypt as a person, and there are many different people that I can be, but this is one of the models I've selected. So if we look at ancient Egypt map, you can get an idea of, it's kind of hard to, the controls are a little bit, I can do it with the mouse here, I see that, but now I'm using the arrow keys. So we see we see ancient Egypt represented here, and because I don't know any of this stuff in great detail, I'm kind of going off of when I actually looked up this map in real life, the satellite imagery and stuff, which helps me a lot, but I don't have that side by side right now, so I'll just go off of the game, but it's startlingly authentic or faithful to the actual geography. So it's really cool, and it seems to be really big. So this is really cool. There's even partly a desert. Now, what I'm doing right now is I'm just checking. I need to check my audio settings on my stream. If you bear with me on that, I will get rolling on this. So I want to make sure that my streams are working correctly, okay? Just give me a few minutes here to check everything. Okay. So my game audio is a little bit. Well, you know what? I'll leave it like that because there's going to be information from the game. So that's good. I'm seeing here people commenting. Thank you for your support. I appreciate all the fans and friends. Look at that. That's cool. Got the bird. And we won't eat him. Okay, so we have 12 people viewing on X. Thank you for joining me. There's so much going on here, and one thing that would be great for me is that if I could actually pull up the chat, because I realize there will be people chatting and asking questions, I'm sure, today, but I will be going on. So what I'd like to do, let's look up the little animals here. This little animal. So, I mean, how cool it is to be here in this very rich 3D world of ancient Egypt. Everybody, I'm sure, really loves to get into the pyramid area. If you look at these blue symbols on the map, I think this is all the educational content, all the informational content that they have prepared. There seems to be like hours of information on this stuff, and frankly, it's so overwhelming. I don't even know where to start and what to do with all of this information. But what we might do, since we're here, is I might actually just start at one of the obvious external points for the information thing. I always forget the controls on this. I can so the cool thing, oh, there it is. This is the one I wanted to approach, and it shows up when you get close to it. So now I'm supposed to get information to start us off with. So what this is the origin of the pyramid, there are 7 points in this tour, I guess. And then it tells you what you're going to learn about. Learn about the early funerary monuments of ancient Egypt and their evolution into the pyramidal structure we know so well today. They really got creative with the writing, huh? They used the real words that hardly get used. So now I don't know if that's space or enter. I'm going to try enter, start the tour. That work? Space? Space.
Welcome to
Okay.
the origin of the pyramid.
So let me know if the audio is good. But basically now follow the trail. And so we're going to see what we learn and how this is presented, okay? This is my first time actually experiencing any of this.
The origin of the word pyramid is controversial. Most believe that it originates with the Greek word pyramis, which referred to a bread of conical shape. Life and death in ancient Egypt were modeled on the cycle of the sun. The perfect shape of the smooth-faced pyramid became associated with the metaphor of the pharaoh transformed into one of the sun's rays in death. Pyramids represented the Benben, the primordial mound of the Heliopolitan creation myth. These stories permeated every aspect of Egyptian life to a greater or lesser extent.
Okay. So that's cool. Unfortunately, when I Alt-Tab out, I lose the visual. So that's not great, because in order for me to check the chat... There you are, Luke. I see you. And I have that wonderful chat here. Now, I wonder if I can make it stay on top of the game. Possibly. Maybe not. I don't see the option here. So that, at least I have a unified chat location.
So that, at least I have a unified
okay,
chat
I'm hearing
location.
myself.
At least I have a unified chat
hearing
myself. At least I have a unified chat.
Should I forget to...
At least I have a unified chat.
Where am I coming through?
At least I have a unified chat.
Where am I coming through?
At least I have a unified
Oh, that's my Switch. Was I doubled up the whole time? I'm so sorry about that. Well, at least I caught it. I wasn't double up the whole time. That's weird. It just kicked on. Okay. So, E-close. More information. Okay, so then we continue on the tour. So, let me see how this one plays out. I think that was one of the 7 points. Let's see what else they got for us, okay?
During the pre-dynastic period, the development of funerary practices was different, depending on whether one was located in Lower Egypt or Upper Egypt. Well before the pyramid, there was the burial pits. It is on the site of Merimde Beni Salome in Lower Egypt that we find the oldest funerary site, dating back to 5000 BCE. Study of the tombs revealed that the bodies of the deceased were deposited in a shallow grave, in a fetal position. Though a few objects were recovered from these graves, they offered no insight as to the social class of those interred within.
So it's really cool because you actually see a photo of what they're referring to. The fetal position, mummified remains, I believe it is. Yeah, mummified body. So they specify when, 3rd millennium BCE, and this is earlier than the pyramids, I believe, is what they said. So really cool, interesting stuff.
In Upper Egypt, pre-dynastic practices are easier to study, but reveal more complex funerary rites. They are divided into 2 cultural phases, Badarian and Nagada. The Badarian phase ranged from 4400 BCE to 3800 BCE. Small necropolises were discovered on the outskirts of villages, revealing the emergence of a funerary cult. The bodies of the deceased were lowered into an oval grave and covered with goat or gazelle skins. Items needed in everyday life were added alongside the body. During the 3 Nagada periods ranging from 4000 BCE to 3510 BCE, funerary practices evolved in complexity. The shape of tombs changed from oval to rectangular, mimicking the homes of the living. the size of the burials increased and funerary items became more stylized and numerous. Tombs gained complexity, with masonry, wooden veneers, or raw bricks added to strengthen the structures. In time, socially stratified necropolises emerged. For example, in Hyrcanopolis, the elite and commoners had separate necropolises.
So here there's actually more information when you ask for it. And it kind of goes over what they said about the shape of the tombs changed from oval to rectangular to mimic the homes of the living. So they wanted the burial location to be like the house where people lived, and then they put their personal belongings with them, according to their early or more refined religious beliefs.
The term mastaba, meaning massive bench in dialectal Arabic, refers to a form of funerary architecture that was present in Egypt from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom. An evolution of the burial pit, mastabas were generally composed of two parts. A structure was built above the ground in the form of a massive rectangle with stepped walls, and a subterranean burial chamber was located underneath. Smaller mastabas often surrounded the much larger tomb of the king. These generally held the remains of the king's relatives and courtiers.
That's cool, the king's relatives. And then you have an image on the left showing the deepness and the angle where it cuts inward. So this is more advanced ground. Well, you have above ground and below ground structure, right? We can take a look here. It's extremely cool how they've prepared and put this all together. And it's such high quality too. They probably went in and made sure that everything was very uniform and of a high quality. So hats off to Ubisoft for all this completely free public information. If only we would spend the time to learn about it, huh? I think we're having the day-night cycle kind of happening, which is kind of cool on its own. Let's see if I can. So the sun is setting right now. This is kind of interesting. Ooh, going in. So you can. Okay, let me see.
The arrangement of the substructure of the mastaba evolved during the course of the Old Kingdom. From the 5th dynasty onwards, mastabas often featured multi-roomed substructures, with sometimes up to 30 rooms. Also, the quantity and quality of decorated surfaces increased noticeably, as well as the number of statues found within. The 6th dynasty would see art used to its utmost. The entire surface of a mastaba would be covered in scenes of daily life, illustrating the prosperity of those lucky enough to comfortably spend eternity near the pyramid of a pharaoh. The best example of this type of mastaba is the tomb of Mereruka in Saqqara.
Okay, I actually don't want that chat there. Okay. Super interesting photography. The tour is complete. What key is that? Left arrow, right arrow. It's like I'm studying a hieroglyph. What is that key? Oh, tab? I've never seen tab represented like that. Okay, so we did the origin of the pyramid, 7 stations. And I guess it marks it off. Look at all of the stuff they have in here, right? So, in terms of order, now that we've done that one, we can see what's coming up, I guess, in this area. Step pyramid, bent pyramid, red pyramid. A lot of wonderful stuff. Very juicy. So we can even look and see that we'll learn about the layout of the first stone monument erected by mankind, according to our history that we know. The Step Pyramid Complex. So let's do it. So we're gonna travel there. Yeah, we'll try to travel there. You have a really cool loading screen too. So now that we're here, we see this pyramid, which is reminiscent of early ancient structures, pyramid-style structures. We could see the other pyramids in the distance there. We could see actually what a beautiful sight this is. If you take a look and see how civilization is set, they kind of... This site looks beautiful from the city, and the city looks beautiful from the site, right? So we can see where we are in the map. If we look at the most famous site, which would be Giza, that would be to the north of us. So we're to the south, and we can see actually a 3D representation, which is really cool, of the first pyramid right here. So now we get to see what they have for us.
Welcome to the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. The Step Pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex, comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault. The only fragment of information regarding...
Okay. So, I could look around, I think. Yeah, look around. Wow, the sun is beautiful like that. It's reflecting off the water. This wall is particularly really fancy when you look at a part that is not eroded or destroyed. That's really profound. Like, it makes it seem like something like a castle from heaven or something, right? It's like an anime in ancient Egypt. So let's see here. Can I look at this picture? Oh, there it is. And yeah. It would be cool if I could kind of move this around and angle it and stuff. Can't do that here, but it's a really great, actually, 3D image as you see it fade away into the distance. And what I see that's super interesting here is that we have the ancient pyramid here, and we're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pyramids, and then this smallest pyramid is just kind of funny how it's a minor pyramid versus a greater pyramid, right? So what I'm doing now is, well, I'm trying to. Let me see if it's gonna. Yeah, I hate how it does that. It takes away my image when I alt tab out. Wondering if I can have it. If I have it in the right mode. It is full screen. That's why maybe borderless. Hopefully this doesn't mess anything up if I switch this. Yeah, so now my imaging stays. Oh, this is much better. I'm gonna just make sure that translates okay in the stream. I'm glad you guys are here. Feel free to drop questions. I'd be more than happy to research. So what I'm actually doing is putting, sorry if I'm saying the name, Djoser's Funeral Complex, the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser, because I'm really curious to learn about it. So what I'm doing is I'm actually jumping into Perplexity right now. We have some of the most advanced AI that can work with the internet's information. Of course, we always would caution that AI can sometimes get things wrong, so that information is generally reliable from quality sources, but sometimes there is a comical mistake that AI might make. So that since we're going over a lot of information quickly, I'm just going to go off of what I read, if it makes sense to me at least. At least I'm a little bit of a filter to make sure that no funny business gets in the information. But according to, so we're using ChatGPT 4.5 to make the presentation of information from Perplexity's answer engine, or a search engine, if you will. And according to ChatGPT, there's a little bit of information here, there, and it says, let's travel back over 4,600 years, where King Djoser and his brilliant architect Imhotep changed history forever. Together they created the Step Pyramid Complex at Saqqara, a revolutionary architectural masterpiece that set the stage for all future pyramids. What makes the Step Pyramid so special? The first of its kind. Before Djoser, tombs were simple rectangular structures called mastabas. Imhotep had a bold idea. Stack mastabas on top of each other to create a six-tiered pyramid. This was the first pyramid ever built in Egypt, and the first large-scale stone structure in human history. Now, the structure makes so much sense. You're actually stacking on top of each other smaller and smaller burial sites, burial buildings, to create this it's almost like it teleports you to the next world, to the world beyond, right? And it's got this kind of mathematical feel of infinity or forever, which is very appropriate for the pharaohs of Egypt. A symbol of power. Just over 200 feet tall, the pyramid was covered in gleaming white limestone that would have dazzled anyone approaching it. It wasn't just a tomb, it was a monument to Djoser's greatness. So not only did it have the concept of carrying you to the next life, but also it served to talk about the greatness of the person that built it. Or that it was for, to be very specific. This pyramid, the Step Pyramid, is part of a sprawling complex designed for rituals, ceremony, and eternal life. Because that's what ancient Egyptians believed, that they can have eternal life, if only done the right way. A massive 10-meter high wall surrounded the complex, with only one true entrance leading to its wonders. The courtyard was used for rituals celebrating the king's vitality and eternal reign. Underground chambers. Beneath the pyramid lay an intricate network of tunnels and galleries, including the burial chamber, carved from granite. Imhotep was not just an architect, he was a visionary who introduced stone construction to Egypt. His innovations earned him such respect that he was later deified, a rare honor for someone who was not royalty.
The Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, the Step Pyramid complex, is enclosed within a 1,600-meter-long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis. While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall.
Wow, this is cool.
The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival.
What? I always forget the control to turn into a bird. I have to hit this. Anyway, it's not that hard. Q and B. I don't remember Q. Let me see. Can I? Oh, it's a horse, I think, but I can't call a horse now for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, this just lets me travel faster. Not that fast. It's cool that you can just you can actually look in first person, which is really cool because you can see how how it looks in real life. Just awesome.
The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway. This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening. Meant to resemble a doorway, it has carved doors and hinges that are permanently open. The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own. Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment. Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body.
True, an evolution of the death ritual. At first, the jars, I don't believe, were together with the body. So, putting the jars of organs together with the body was considered the ultimate.
A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased. The architect Imhotep chose a staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba.
So,
The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
it's really interesting that the steps allows the pharaoh to get to the afterlife, and then they went to pyramids. So what does it mean? That you can climb it easier by softer steps if pyramid steps are pyramid blocks or pyramid stairs. So it's really interesting, and I guess the most logical and the most artistic or possibly creative way of saying it is that pyramids were meant to be climbed, just not by you or I. But pyramids were supposed to be climbed, and then when they say don't climb the pyramids, it's because they were meant to be stairways to heaven. So, yeah, it's really interesting, and we'll see how it's
Pharaoh
represented
Djoser
in
the
the game.
Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years. During his reign, he was known as Horus
restart that
Nergericat,
because actually they
divine
say
of
the name.
body. He
So
was
I
given the
can
name
restart that.
Djoser several centuries after his death
Djoser.
as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt.
Wow.
An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
Really interesting. Really good history. Base history for Egypt.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement.
It's a great perspective here. Djoser's Necropolis. It's cool to have the bird's eye view here. You can see the whole place. And you can see the stepped pyramid from a great perspective as well.
The funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife. In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife. The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order and renew godly powers. Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as dance, offerings, and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed. The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was... Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed courtyard is lined with false chapels and equipped with a platform featuring 2 staircases meant to represent Upper and Lower Egypt. Located in the courtyard, the 2 pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt. Rectangular in shape, the 2 replica structures face one another. Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony, with column crowns carved to look like falling leaves. The funerary temple is on the north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid. The north wall has 2 observation holes. A statue of Djoser is seated on the throne, wearing a mantle and a tripartite wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's Ka, this statue looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to observe the ceremonies and receive offerings in the afterlife.
Educational gaming. Can't go wrong. I always forget what the button is. It's V. So now, I can be the eagle eye. I can be the eagle. Can I, oh, you can, like, fast travel there? Can you? How do I, a hover mode. Yeah, there's hover mode, and then... there's a speed boost, yeah? That's cool. Can I actually, like, stand there Does that work? I don't know if I can control it that much. Anyway, at least you can get this close. There is something there. Fast travel there. I don't know. Try it. See what that does. This is a really cool loading screen. Just the lighting and then like this. The colors are killer. Okay, where did it put me? Oh, it actually put me up here. Okay, that's cool. Maybe they figured that's what everybody would want anyway, so. So this is cool. Because you can be on... You can be on the pyramid without getting arrested. They won't actually let me drop down. So they put a few restrictions. Okay, so let's see what else we have on the list. Where were we? We went to Djoser, which was actually the second one in the pyramids. Inside Djoser's step pyramid. That's the next one. See how this works. Okay, so where am I on the complex? Okay, we're on this side, and then there's these really cool sphinxes, whatever they are. Then we go here.
Welcome to Inside Djoser's Step Pyramid.
I can equip a torch. It's really cool.
The architect of the Step Pyramid, Imhotep, was a man of great importance to Pharaoh Djoser and ancient Egyptians in general. The base of a statue of Djoser, discovered in 1926, celebrates Imhotep as a carpenter, sculptor, stonemaker, and chief of the seers. Little is known of Imhotep's day-to-day life. While he is credited for writing medical texts, it is for his role of architect that he is most famously known.
Just seeing if there's a button for walk action. Walk action, which is, what is it? Walk is Z? Such an awkward button for walk to be. I can walk, and walk is a little too slow. It's almost like you want to... Well, anyway, can't complain. It's kind of dramatic in here.
From the design of the pyramid to the elements within the complex itself, Imhotep set out to create something that would immortalize his king. An architectural achievement, the step pyramid was made from stone blocks instead of mud brick. It was the first time Egyptians built a monument of that height. Imhotep explicitly intended for the stone to reflect natural materials. The funerary complex of Djoser remained famous throughout the centuries and millennia, and its great architect, Imhotep, was deified by ancient Egyptians during the late period.
I actually found it super interesting in the old days of gaming to be in first-person perspective, and you look at the quality that you can have with technology today, actually walking here as if you were in Egypt.
In addition to the central subterranean palace built for Djoser, 11 wells were dug. Each went to a depth of 33 meters and connected with a horizontal gallery extending for about 20 meters. The first 5 galleries were intended for members of the royal family. 2 passages lead underground and branch off in 3 directions to various magazine galleries. This vast underground space accommodated sections for storage and ceremonial offerings. One of the tunnels, starting on the east side of the pyramid, contained 40,000 stone vessels, many of them belonging to the king's ancestors. The burial chamber of Djoser is located at the bottom of a 28-meter deep central shaft. According to Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Laure, the chamber was originally made from polished blocks of limestone, while its ceiling was decorated in 5-pointed stars. At some point, however, the limestone blocks were replaced entirely by pink granite blocks, leaving behind only fragments of limestone blocks decorated with stars. At the foot of the chamber are many tunnels going in all directions. This maze of tunnels, galleries, and chambers stretches over 5 kilometers. There are a number of dead ends and false doors. They may have been intended for the afterlife, rather than to fool thieves.
I'm pretty sure that there was some representation or connection for the afterlife. But I don't know what they were. It's hard to say. But I think it was, the theory was put forth by someone that if you kept on creating as much as you could, the idea that you're in this grand structure by creating more paths and false doorways and things like this, then you're filling it out, where in the afterlife their version is complete. Our version is only a partial version, which represents when we're living, we're only probably experiencing only partially what you would experience in the afterlife. And I think that that is what the idea is.
Unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza, or Menkaure, the Pyramid of Djoser does not have any extra openings dug out by thieves. There was no need for them. Because of the easy access into the tunnels and along the corridors, thieves had little trouble clearing out the temples once inside. The Pharaoh's apartments, also known as the Blue Chambers, are decorated with blue-green tiles meant to imitate the reed matting that covered the walls and windows of his palace. The stone is carefully curved and painted to look like the rolled mats of open doorways and curtains. There are 2 long rooms running side by side along a north-south axis. The south room has false doors separated by stone panels, while the north room is a corridor which allows access to side chambers. Nearby chambers originally housed the pharaoh's treasures.
It's a little creepy with all the bones and spider webs. What's his name, you know?
The door frames are made of fine limestone and carved with the king's name. As in the south tomb, reliefs are carved into the doorways. These reliefs show the king performing rituals and visiting divine sanctuaries for all eternity. Their interiors are fictive additions made by the team to add to the wonders of the tomb. It is clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this funerary monument was a technological marvel of its time.
Okay, we're on the side of that gate. So it was asked, looking to see what this program this is on, the space announcement. I think you're asking about what program we're looking at, which is, gosh, I think it's Tour of Egypt. This is related to Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's available through Ubisoft's launcher tool. You should find reference to it on their website, and if you just search for, Ancient Egypt Tour of Egypt, Assassin's Creed, and then yeah, this is free for anyone to get and experience, and all the stuff that you're hearing in the game is included with it. Okay, so we've finished the tour here, and we can look at back. Controls are a little strange, but so what I wanted to take a step back now that we've gone over one very important pyramid. There's plenty of pyramid stuff to go over, which I'm very happy to get to, but I feel like the way this is probably intended is that we're supposed to get some kind of introduction, probably to Egypt, especially the regions of Egypt. So we want to learn a little bit about Egypt before we just go right for the pyramids. And then there's, of course, other things that you learn about, for example, the daily life of Egyptians and things like that. I would try to just make it interesting versus just going through the entirety of it. So if we look at this major regions thing, I think I'm going to go there now that we've had our opportunity to get a little bit into some of the really good information, at least for a foundational understanding of where the pyramids came from, because that was the first stone pyramid created by the ancient Egyptians. So now we're looking at the regions, and we're going to see what they present here.
Welcome
this tour
to
requires a
the
boat.
major regions of Egypt.
Find one near the shores or borrow one.
Life in ancient Egypt was concentrated along the shores of the Nile and divided into two regions. Lower Egypt was situated on the Nile Delta near the Mediterranean, and Upper Egypt was at the south reaching into Africa. Due to its proximity to the Mediterranean, temperatures in Lower Egypt were less extreme than in Upper Egypt.
So, I think this is really important, and history refers a lot to this, and this is a visual understanding of Lower Egypt versus Upper Egypt. And at this point, you're very welcome. I'd like to do a little bit of artificial intelligence helping us to maybe get a picture here, maybe a little bit more interesting information regarding this stuff. So we go to a new thread here, and we say Upper Egypt versus Lower Egypt, Ancient Egypt. The AI is cooking. So we have this great visual, and we're told that the two lands were distinct in culture, economy, and even their symbols. The upper and lower terms might seem counterintuitive at first glance, but they refer to the Nile's flow from its source in East Africa, south, to its mouth at the Mediterranean Sea, north. So what that is suggesting is that wait, well, that is okay. So it's backwards, right? Upper and lower. Okay. North and south. Okay, so how can I understand this? Let's see. The source of the river is the south. Anyway, you get it. You get it. The source of the river to where it pours outward. Okay, that's the concept. The two regions had distinct symbols that represent their identities. Upper Egypt was symbolized by the lotus flower and associated with the white crown, Hedjit. Lower Egypt was represented by the papyrus plant, I think I remember that, and the red crown, Deshret. When the two lands were unified around 3100 BCE, under King Narmer, or Menes, pharaohs began wearing the session, a double crown combining both regions' crowns, to signify their rule over all of Egypt. The Upper Egypt was known for religious centers, where the god Horus was worshipped. It was home to monumental architecture, like temples at Karnak and Luxor. Lower Egypt was more cosmopolitan due to its proximity to the Mediterranean trade routes. Its patron goddess Wadjet, depicted as a cobra, symbolized protection. Lower Egypt's cities were larger and more industrialized compared to the Upper Egypt's rural settlements. Basically, with the agricultural crops, I guess they had economic strengths in that. That's just an interesting point on that. There's a talk about the unification, which of course is really important in Egyptian history. The rivalry between the Upper and Lower Egypt inspired epic tales of battles for supremacy, though unification was likely a gradual process rather than a single dramatic event. And there's research done on that. Even today, echoes of ancient division remain in modern Egypt. Lower Egypt is more urbanized, while Upper Egypt is still largely rural. Why it matters is because it shows how geography shapes history. Missed the lure point there. Try that again.
Until 3100 BCE and the unification of Egypt, each region had its own pharaoh and crown. Lower Egypt's crown was red and marked with symbols of papyrus and bees. Upper Egypt's crown was white, with symbols of lotus and sedge-grass.
What a boat we got there. Look at that thing.
Both regions had competing major cities, most notably Memphis in Lower Egypt and Thebes in Upper Egypt. There were different religious cults in both regions, each worshipping their own major gods. Many of the temples were designed in such a way as to represent the two regions, and ceremonies often incorporated Upper and Lower Egypt in their rituals.
See this guy's little things he's selling here.
Welcome to Temples and Priests. From its foundation, the city of Memphis favored worship of the god Ptah. The main temple of Ptah was known as Hutkaptah, meaning Palace of the Ka of Ptah. The name of the temple, translated into Greek as Aegyptos, would eventually evolve into the modern name Egypt. Temples were the center of religious, political, and economic life in ancient Egypt. These sacred places were viewed as the literal home. Located in the center of Memphis, the Temple of Ptah was the most prominent and imposing building in the city. The long walkway leading toward the temple, known as the Dromos, was guarded by rows of sphinxes. The entire sacred area was designed to keep the statue of the god protected, deep within the sacred enclosure. The Dromos opened into a courtyard, with the surrounding portico graced with columns carved to resemble palm trees. During special festivals, the general population was allowed to enter this location, but under no circumstances would they be allowed into the sacred spaces beyond the courtyard.
Interesting. Okay, so let's see where we are right now. Okay, here's Memphis. All right, so we came in over here. We're at Memphis. Let's see the fast travel spots. Building ancient Egypt. So they talk about the construction. Limestone was common and easy to extract from quarries. It's really cool and relevant. The cutting technique sounds pretty interesting, actually. Workers would draw a large grid, taking care to leave space between blocks. Cut the block entirely on site. So workers would be able to be accommodated between the spaces. For harder rocks like granite, workers cut a series of holes and hammered wooden wedges into them. And soaked the wood until it swelled and caused the rock to split. It's really cool. Okay, ancient stone cutting techniques. So this is all about building Egypt and the limestone, and it all makes sense according to the construction of what is around. Who were the people involved in creation of ancient Egyptian monuments? The workers in transport, agriculture, agricultural techniques. Let's see. Domesticated animals. Various domesticated animals. Cattle, donkeys, pigs, and dogs. Quite interesting. How do I... Let's see. That's actually kind of interesting by itself. Domesticated animals.
Welcome to Domesticated Animals of Ancient Egypt.
Oh, look. Okay.
Agriculture and domesticated livestock were introduced 6,000 years ago. Archaeologists have found traces of cattle, donkeys, pigs, and dogs. Dromedary are thought to have been introduced during the Persian invasion.
Oh, jeez.
Pets were deeply cherished in ancient Egypt. Many illustrations of children often include a pet in the depiction.
Look at this little dog.
One of ancient Egypt's most iconic animals, the cat, wasn't adopted into their daily life until the Middle Kingdom. Since they were so highly capable of killing snakes and rodents, cats were present throughout every period. However, they only became pets sometime during the Middle Kingdom. Prince Thutmose, son of Amenhotep III, had his cat Tamu laid to rest in its own sarcophagi.
You can see the cat in the bottom left. I think there's a one here in the middle on the right side. Hard to spot, but then hard to miss once you spot them, right?
The earliest reference to dogs dates back to 5000 BCE. They were popular pets as they helped hunters and protected herds. They were closely linked to Anubis, the jackal-headed god. Baboons, monkeys, and even falcons were tamed as pets. Each was mummified and buried with as much ceremony as any family member.
Let's take a second to see if there's any information about dogs in ancient Egypt. As they mentioned, they were helpers of hunting. The hunters used them. Breeds like the Saluk and Besenji were prized for their speed and agility in tracking game. Guardians of the home. Dogs acted as protectors, safeguarding homes and temples from intruders. Temples I didn't really know about, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about how we use dogs. They're quite fierce. The Basenji are sometimes called the African barkless dog, particularly known for quiet vigilance. Dogs were beloved pets, wore leather collars with names like Brave One, Blackie, and even Useless. Yes, humor existed back in ancient Egypt, too. Dogs were closely tied to Anubis, the god of mummification and the afterlife. Anubis guided souls to the afterlife, which may explain why some dogs were mummified and buried with their owners. Cynopolis, the city of dogs. In Cynopolis, dogs roam freely as sacred animals. They were bred for ritual purposes to honor Anubis, a practice rooted in deep spiritual beliefs. So if I look up Cynopolis, that is... Okay, I can see where it is. I don't know if it's actually represented in the game. Oops. I wish I could zoom the map out a little bit more. Let me see if I can match up some of this again. I haven't done this for a long time. Okay, that's cool. Where am I? Where are we? Ugh, it's so difficult. This map, although aesthetically pleasing, it's a little bit hard to see where things are. Hang on a second here while I check the map a little bit more. This is the real world location. While you're generally right, the map is a little bigger than that. Let's see what these guys posted. Ah, okay. So Cairo, okay. Real world location, okay. So, if I understand this correctly, even as far south as we go, because we're looking at a white desert, okay. This should, okay, so I think that that portion of Egypt is not represented in this map area. Whoops, I did not mean to move that. Put that back in place. Never mind. Got a little confused. It just seems... I just... what I should have done is I should have overlaid this with the map. I thought it would be a little easier to find. Anyway, that's fine. We'll move right on. Moving on from that. Finish with that. So back on the tours as we like. Just finding the next interesting thing. Medicine. Do we want to learn about medicine? Anyone? Show of hands? Let's see what they say. Evidence of advanced medicinal procedures have been found on mummies. Oh, that's right. Descriptions of diseases we know about. Remedies were considered as medicine and carried by doctors and priests. And then they had concepts of antiseptics and antibacterials and reduction of swelling. And their information was lacking, of course. Sadly, but sad but true. They could have done better with medicine if they would have cared more about it. But I don't know. It's their civilization had so much advancement, so you couldn't really complain. They just didn't have someone who spearheaded medicine that was able to convince everyone. So they had all this great stuff like leather, and we have information about that. Learn about ancient Egyptian fashion. Yeah, is there anything? The flesh of the gods. Because gold never lost its shine, it was considered akin to the flesh of the gods. Let's see. What else? Okay, so that's that. What else do we have? Roman stuff. Okay, that's daily life. Alexandria, what do we have? We have something on Alexandria. Let's check Egypt here before we move on to Alexandria. And then we're going to go to the pyramids next. Finally, back to the main touring. So we know the River Nile is so important. Deserts cover 94% of Egypt. What is this? Why do we want to learn about this? Because of salt? Covered in salt? Do they actually have something about that? Let me see. They actually talk about the deserts? Is it worth listening to?
Welcome to Deserts of Egypt.
Deserts are more interesting than you would think.
Reaching out on either side of the lush Nile are the harsh, arid Western Desert and the mountainous Eastern Desert. They cover nearly 94% of Egypt. Each of these parent deserts have their own microclimate and contain several smaller deserts with a distinctive fauna and flora. Whale fossils were discovered within the depths of the Sahara.
These are the whale fossils.
Known as the Valley of the Whales, this location is evidence of the seas which once covered the area.
So all this used to be ocean, sea. Just pretty interesting.
The White Desert in the northeast of the Sahara owes its name to its white limestone soil, contrasting with the yellow sand. The wind has eroded the rocks of the White Desert into stone mushrooms, the most famous of which is referred to as the Finger of God. The Great Sand Sea is a large unbroken desert that reaches out through western Egypt and eastern Libya. It is home to a unique geological formation known as Libyan silica glass. The pale yellowish-green material ranges from pebble-sized fragments to glass rocks the size of rough boulders.
Curious what they say about this place.
Welcome to the Qattara Depression. The Qattara Depression is located in the northwest part of Egypt. Reaching 18,000 square kilometers, the basin is 133 meters below sea level and covered with salt. It is the second lowest point in Africa, after the Afar Depression. The climate is very arid, with average temperatures reaching 36 degrees Celsius. The famous Siwa Oasis is located on the protected southwestern region. Today, the Qattara Depression is utilized for oil.
Okay, so... predicting victory. See what else we have to learn here. We learned about Memphis.
Welcome to the Fayoum. The Fayoum Oasis is an enormous basin in the western desert that formed from the Nile's overflow. As such, it is not considered a true oasis, though it gives its name to the region, which covers Lake Morris. The oasis harbors some of the oldest archaeological artifacts of the region.
Rediscovering Egypt. Archaeology. Let's see what they cover. It's actually interesting how when they began and followed through with archaeology of Egypt. The artistic reconstruction of ancient cities and monuments, rather interesting. The team was thrilled to collaborate with Jean-Claude Gauvin in order to recreate Egypt for the game. That's where they were able to create the depictions, which are really rich, really nice stuff. Basically, they can use technology like GPS today, when they wouldn't have used that in the past.
Welcome to Natron.
That's really cool. You can do all this stuff, you know.
Whoa. Natron is a colorless salt that was used by ancient Egyptians for food preservation, cleansing products, and glassmaking. It was also used in the mummification process. Whoa.
I realized they use this stuff, but it's been so long. You should know natron because how important the salt is. as I just mentioned.
Whoa.
Welcome to the Red Pyramid of Dashur.
Okay, the Red Pyramid of Dashur.
Whoa.
The Red Pyramid was built 2 kilometers to the north of the Bent Pyramid. It was so named due to the reddish limestone used in its construction. The Red Pyramid reached a height of 105 meters. While the ground level of the Red Pyramid is lower than that of the Bent Pyramid, its height is virtually the same. The task of making the pyramid a geometrical, true flat-face pyramid brought about yet another new design concept, the use of casing blocks.
Whoa.
Gotta have camels. What tour of Egypt is not complete without camels?
Whoa.
Are we gonna get to learn about camels?
Whoa.
The descending corridor of the pyramid, which opens to the north, arrives at ground level, where 2 almost identical spectacular chambers with high ceilings are aligned north to south and connected by a short horizontal passage. In the south wall of the second chamber, accessed by a staircase, another corridor leads to the final chamber, which is built within the masonry of the pyramid itself and aligned east to west.
I'm gonna make sure we learn about camels because I'm gonna use artificial intelligence to teach us about camels related to ancient Egypt. So, that's what today's presentation is all about.
Whoa.
The annexes of the Red Pyramid consist of a small funerary temple located to the east. A causeway presumably ran due east from the temple, but it has yet to be excavated.
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
The Red Pyramid was structurally sound, and once finished, marked a remarkable design milestone. Finally successful in his attempts to build himself a suitable funerary monument, Sneferu knew his future beyond death was assured.
Whoa.
So we get to see that there's the smooth portion. And then you have like what's basically inside of the pyramid, right? Beyond the smooth exterior, which you can see is fitted and smoothed, you can see the block construction inside. And the way we understand it is that there are gaps and everything was placed tight. A lot of precision with the block construction. And it's a pyramid.
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Welcome to the Bent Pyramid of Dashur. After the construction of the Meidum Pyramid failed, Sneferu transferred his residence and the official necropolis to Dashur. There he began construction on his second attempt at a funerary monument. The resulting structure, known as the Bent Pyramid, is the only one of its shape in Egypt.
Whoa!
Though the pyramid also proved unstable and was abandoned, it marked a technical and architectural breakthrough. Heralding an important design transition, the Bent Pyramid displays a shift from the step pyramid to a functional smooth-sided pyramid.
Whoa!
The Bent Pyramid was unique in having two separate entrances, one on the northern face and another on the western face. The chamber of this pyramid was too small for a human burial. It was probably meant for the burial of a statue designated to house the Ka, the vital spirit of the deceased king.
Whoa!
With the Bent Pyramid, architects successfully experimented with a completely new idea: to build the pyramid with a core of huge stones settled on a progressive horizontal design. This way, each construction phase could be completed in a single stage, allowing the architect complete control over every design element. Unfortunately, these precautions did not prevent sagging or cracks in the interior rooms of the pyramid. Sneferu abandoned the monument and began the construction of yet another pyramid.
Whoa! Whoa!
No spitting. No spitting. Okay, so what do we have? Camels in ancient Egypt. These fascinating creatures played a surprising role in history. Were camels around during the pharaohs? Contrary to popular belief, camels were not common during the pharaoh period of ancient Egypt. Camels were introduced much later, likely during the Persian occupation, and more prominently during the Ptolemaic pyramid, around 285 to 246 BCE. Before their arrival, Egyptians relied on donkeys and boats along the Nile for transportation, according to history study. Once camels arrived, they became indispensable for desert travel, because they're known as the ships of the desert. Their ability to carry heavy loads and survive without water for extended periods of time made them perfect for long-distance trade routes across Egypt's arid landscapes. By the Roman period, camels were vital for commerce and daily life. Their large padded feet prevented sinking into the sand, making them desert experts. During late antiquity, camels were used for various tasks, including carrying wheat and wine, to moving looms and drawing water from wells. Um, let's see. Camels were very expensive, costing up to 8 times more than donkeys, and often shared among families. They were also taxed heavily. So even in ancient Egypt, you can't avoid taxes. So if a camel was 8 times more expensive than a donkey, that's meant to entice you to get donkeys instead of camels because of the rarity and their demand. As a symbol, in art and mythology, camels represented endurance and strength. Despite the later significance, ancient Egyptians did not ride camels during the time of the pyramids. Horses and chariots were preferred for military use, while camels gained prominence only after their introduction during the later period. But I can still ride a camel. It's a fast camel. Is this the camel freeway? Dismount here. Okay, so we covered this, this pyramid, that pyramid. I'm going to briefly come over to this tour, and then I'm going to cut over to the greater pyramids, or the more traditional pyramids.
Welcome to Sneferu's first pyramid. With the long reign of Sneferu, the first king of the 4th dynasty, the most brilliant and creative period began for the construction of funerary monuments in Egypt. funerary monument design moved from the step pyramid to the smooth-faced pyramid, testament to the evolution of the practices of construction. The first attempt at this design was the Pyramid of Meidum. While Sneferu's monument started as a 7-stepped pyramid, it was later altered into an 8-stepped structure. The final phase of construction saw the steps filled out and an outer casing applied to achieve a smooth surface. The smooth dressing of the walls did not provide sufficient bonding, however, and the outer casing did not rest on sound foundations. As a result, the bases of the 4 outer buttress walls gave way, causing the walls to slide down and collapse. While the Meidum Pyramid was abandoned due to design flaws, it showcased other innovations that would impact all future pyramid designs.
Okay, we're on our way. Oh, we're really going high. I think they paid a lot of attention to see how the clouds are typically going to be in the mountainous area, obscuring the light and the sun. So this is representative of, you can tell that the lighting, due to the way that the diffused sun hits and everything, probably represents what it's like being in Egypt. So it helps to create the right atmosphere. There's a lot of clouds, there's a lot of sand swirling around, which also is representative of you being in the desert-like atmosphere, environment, to be more correctly. So we're going to, finally, as you can see, this is going to be the great information of the Great Pyramids. So I don't actually know where to start here. If only I knew. Perhaps I can get an answer. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built first, was the first of the 3 pyramids to be constructed, and the largest of the 3. So there you go. That's according to Meta's Llama 3. So, let's see. So we already did the origin. Okay, that's cool. And then, let's see. The riddles of the Sphinx actually sounds really interesting, but trying to figure out where to go here. I want to do the introduction, the secrets of the Great Pyramid. So I should start there.
Welcome to Secrets of the Great Pyramid.
Interesting. So they set up they pre-set up the lighting when you do this tour.
Built around 2550 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza is considered one of the most iconic structures of Egypt. It is the biggest of the pyramids and the only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. The numbers associated to the Great Pyramid of Giza are impressive. A workforce of over 20,000 people, 6 million tons of stone, and 20 years of construction. It was a massive undertaking for a pharaoh's tomb. The construction of the Great Pyramid was also a display of power and opulence on the part of Khufu. It is part of the pharaoh's vast funerary complex, which also includes 2 temples, 3 satellite pyramids, a causeway, and a builder's necropolis. We can guess that the intent behind the construction of these monuments was Khufu's way of declaring himself one of the most powerful pharaohs to rule a unified Egypt.
So you have some Minecraft pyramids over here. These are the kids' ones. That's the adult one.
New insights into engineering and ancient Egyptian culture are still being revealed over 4,500 years later. For example, a recently unearthed papyrus offers a glimpse into the life of a tradesman at the time of the pyramid's construction. Also, a logbook belonging to a team leader during the building gives details on the craftsmen, their work schedules, and the raw materials required. It is interesting to note that by Cleopatra's time, the pyramid's celestial purpose, its construction, and the function of its mysterious inner chambers was already unclear. Today, it is only through dedicated research that we have begun to grasp some of the Great Pyramid's mysteries. The Egyptians had polished their design for centuries by the time work on the Great Pyramid began. Intended as a tomb for Khufu, the Great Pyramid's structural design has been considered to be nearly perfect by engineers and historians ever since. Precisely oriented north-south to the 4 cardinal points of a compass, the length of each side of the Great Pyramid at its base was 230 meters, and its original height was 147 meters. The pyramid is a mere 0.05% error away from being a perfect square.
.05% away from a perfect square.
In order to achieve the shape of a true pyramid, the design required many considerations in the planning phases, as well as precision during execution. It was especially critical that they control the angle of inclination on all sides at every stage of construction.
Don't try this at home, you know? Oh, now it becomes a game, doesn't it? Wonder if I can climb. Seems like I have a path. What? How did I miss that? Ah. Hey. Sometimes I feel like I'm pretty high up now. What? Can I not turn around when I'm up here? Wow, it's really tall. Okay. Okay, can I turn to... Okay, there we go. I wish to be on top of the pyramid. Oh, that ends my tour? No. Alright, well, we can see it close enough. Wow. Alright, let's go back on the tour. I did my own tour. Where am I now? And how do I get back? I'm kind of stuck here because, yeah. Go, go, go. Yes. My feet got a little overly excited climbing the pyramid.
Materials for the Great Pyramid consisted of quarried limestone blocks, weighing between 2 to 15. It's estimated that it took between 600,000 and 2 million blocks of stone to build the Great Pyramid.
That's quite a long,
Experts
wide
calculate
range.
it would have required men to move 12 blocks every hour around the clock for 20 years to place the 2.3 million stones the monument is made of. While the interior chambers were built with red granite from a swan, most of the pyramid was made from local limestone, weighing between 2 to 15 tons per block. There is debate on how the pyramid stones were moved into place. Recent research is exploring the idea that it was built around a large interior ramp. The recently discovered logbook confirms that the high-quality limestone of the outer casing was brought by boat across the Nile from a quarry in Tura. Once complete, the smooth white polished stone of the Great Pyramid would have reflected the sunlight like a beacon, earning it the name the Horizon of Khufu. Over the centuries, thieves and travelers attempted to access the Great Pyramid numerous times. Ancient writings describe details of its interior, proof that some made their way within, though who gained entrance first and when is unknown. The main entrance of the Great Pyramid is located 17 meters above ground level. It faces north, likely in order to align with the North Star. Though the entrance passageway had been discovered in antiquity, any further access into the Great Pyramid was stopped by massive vertical slabs of rock. As such, present-day visitors to the pyramid must use the robber's entrance. The robber's entrance is reported to have been opened in the 9th century by Caliph al-Mamun. In search of treasure, the Caliph had his men dig their way inside the Great Pyramid. The most likely scenario is that they enlarged a corridor which had been created by tomb robbers during antiquity. As such, this is how the team can justify access to this wonder. Attempts to gain entry to the Great Pyramid and uncover its potential secrets continued throughout the centuries. In the 19th century, the belief that another entry existed at the south side resulted in a hole being blasted into the pyramid's side, with no results for the damage that was done. While the search is still ongoing today to uncover more hidden rooms and passageways, conservation is the primary concern of all such efforts.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Upper Chambers. At the entrance of the ascending passage are 3 granite flagstones estimated to weigh up to 25 tons each. They were used to protect the Great Pyramid from thieves. Undaunted by the granite blocks, the thieves simply dug into the softer limestone around them, thus creating the robber's entrance. While in reality the robber's entrance is one single cavity which leads to both passages, in the game, the team created individual accesses to either passage. As such, in the game, one entrance leads to the ascending passage, while another leads to the descending passage. The ascending passageway of the Great Pyramid provides a direct path into the Grand Gallery and is accessed 30 meters from the entrance along the descending corridor. Both corridors have similar dimensions and are designed with the same 26-degree incline. The ascending corridor has smooth masonry on its walls, and the layout includes many trapezoidal stones. Both the floor and ceiling of the passageway indicate that the passage was enlarged, possibly during or after the funeral, to allow workers room to move granite blocks meant to plug the corridor. The Grand Gallery's purpose is still debated among experts. It may have been intended to align with the stars, act as a buffer to protect the king's chamber, or simply to facilitate the transport of the granite blocks used inside the pyramid. Access to the Queen's chamber was at the beginning of the Grand Gallery.
We're actually supposed to go down first, I guess. So I will.
Though this room is referred to as the Queen's Chamber, it is believed that there was no queen buried here. Based on their knowledge of earlier pyramids, Egyptologists believe it was more likely intended as the king's serdab, a chamber meant to contain the Ka statue, which would in turn house the king's spirit. Situated exactly within the pyramid's center, on the east-west axis of the pyramid, the chamber has a vaulted ceiling and measures 5.7 by 5.2 meters. In the eastern wall, there is a niche tucked away in a small corbelled archway, which may have originally held the Ka statue. Behind this niche is another smaller hole, possibly dug out by thieves in search of further treasure. In the 19th century, two shafts were found running through the north and south walls. They each run in a horizontal line for 2 meters before sloping upward, and both are closed off with limestone blocks fitted with copper handles. Whether they were intended as ventilation shafts for workers or a celestial connection for the pharaoh's spirit is unconfirmed. A recent scan of the room indicated the presence of an unknown cavity hidden behind the north face of the walls over the descending corridor. Further investigation is still ongoing to ascertain the nature of the anomaly, so as to avoid risking damage to the monument. Khufu's architects were possibly influenced by earlier rhomboidal pyramids when designing the gallery. It is the longest corbelled vault ever built, measuring 47 meters long and 8.6 meters high. The walls While the space is visually dramatic, the gallery seemed to serve a practical function, though what exactly remains uncertain. At the end of the Grand Gallery is the entrance to the antechamber leading to the King's Chamber. Directly above, there is another narrower horizontal passage that connects to the top of the King's Chamber. The far end of the Grand Gallery leads to a small antechamber with a portcullis, preventing access to the King's Chamber. The portcullis was composed of 3 separate granite slabs. They were designed to be lowered into place and seal the chamber after the burial of the king. The grooves dug out to hold the slabs in place are still clearly visible to this day. The elaborate locking system was composed of a series of grooves for the ropes and pulleys that drop the stones into place like the notches on a key. For the purposes of the game, the team elected to remove the portcullis slabs in order to grant the player access to the King's Chamber. In reality, workers would have backed out of the room after the funeral, lowering each slab into place behind them one at a time. Each of the 3 stones were smashed by looters centuries later, and evidence of their break-in is still evident. The King's Chamber is built entirely out of red granite. The King's Chamber measures 5.8 meters in height. It has an imposing cover of 5 stacked levels above, with granite beams weighing 25 to 40 tons each. The uppermost level is surmounted by a vault of stones, arranged in chevrons to bear the enormous structural load. As in the Queen's Chamber, 2 shafts extend out from the room towards the north and south faces of the pyramid. They measure nearly 64 meters until they are blocked by copper-handled granite plugs. Some experts in the culture of the Old Kingdom believe that the shafts were thought to lead the king's soul to the stars, with the incarnation of the pharaoh as the god Ra, represented by the northern well, and the god Horus by the southern well. There is a granite sarcophagus at the west end of the room, but it is the concealed construction inscriptions left by workmen on the roof's stones which verify this as the resting place of Khufu. The sarcophagus was recorded as being empty when it was discovered, and its design indicates that there was once a lid in place. It's possible that this sarcophagus is only a cenotaph in memory of the pharaoh, but was never actually meant to receive the body. Khufu's mummy was never found. It is hoped that as of yet undiscovered hidden rooms and shafts of the pyramid may provide an answer as to its location.
Pretty interesting.
Welcome to Jean-Pierre Houdin's Theories.
Wow. They got quite a fun house in here, huh?
The team wanted to provide players with a sense of exploration and discovery, particularly within the Great Pyramid. As such, a decision was made that the internal design of the monument in the game would reflect Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories. While the antechambers of the king's tomb have yet to be discovered, Houdin posits that this is merely due to a unique design, placing the pharaoh's tomb at the center of the pyramid. The entire tour you are about to take was designed along Houdin's hypotheses. While respecting Houdin's hypothesis as to the general layout of the antechambers, the team wanted the contents to enhance the game experience. In regular royal tombs, the antechambers were filled with all the material goods needed by the pharaoh in the afterlife. To support the feelings of discovery and awe, the art team created a unique and fantastical treasure in this second antechamber. Houdin theorized that the ascending corridor and the Great Gallery were used by the workers to haul hoist the heavy beams above the king's chamber. He called it the service circuit. The corridor you are in now was created by the team following Houdin's theory and is referred to as the noble circuit. It is through this corridor that the wooden sarcophagus containing the pharaoh's mummy would have been transported to its final resting chamber. With this structure in mind, one can easily assume that the pyramid's entrance would have been connected to the two antechambers. Modern research has revealed that a cavity might be located behind the north face chevrons of the pyramid. As such, the team chose to create this area for the player to explore. Here is where Houdin believes that the priests and nobles would have exited the pyramid after the burial ceremony. Many theories regarding the construction of the Great Pyramid rely on the usage of external ramps. However, Houdin believes an external ramp would have been too steep for the upper portion of the pyramid. This is why he posits that there were two ramps. An external ramp for about half of the height of the pyramid, which then became an internal ramp for the second half.
It's probably correct. The theory is probably correct that it was not an external ramp. It's just as they stated.
Houdin's theory states that this internal ramp followed the sides of the pyramid in an ascending spiral pattern. A notch discovered in the edge of the Great Pyramid, known as Bob's Room, seems to support this theory. Located at the corners of each edge of the pyramid, these large rooms would have allowed workers to turn the stone by 90 degrees, allowing them to continue the ascent. The team chose to create rooms such as this one, bringing Houdin's hypothesis to life. This long corridor was the first section of the ascending internal ramp. Through it, the blocks used to build the Great Pyramid would have been carefully moved upward and then turned at each edge of the pyramid in order to continue their ascent. Though the team only created the main ramp for the game, Houdin posits that this ramp had 2 levels, allowing workers to return safely to the bottom thanks to an additional corbelled upper section. According to Houdin, the start of the inner ramp was located at the base of the southeastern face of the pyramid. This location would have been the junction point of the external and internal ramps. Below us, workers would have built the lower part of the pyramid with the external ramp before eventually switching to the internal ramp for the middle and upper sections of the pyramid. At that time in the process, they could have reused the material of the external ramp to fill the center of the pyramid, hauling the stones in through the internal ramp.
Subterranean. Did we not cover subterranean? So underground. Did we not cover that yet? We went to the upper chambers and such. It's quite a lengthy tour in there.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid. From the original entrance of the Great Pyramid, there is a passage leading to the subterranean chamber. Its walls were carved out of the existing rock of the plateau and then covered in a fine, unmarked line. While the original the well shaft was a 58-meter vertical. While the original passage was 145 meters long, the team reduced its length and made it both wider and higher. The main focus of the work in reproducing the location was centered upon preserving the unique claustrophobic environment of the Great Pyramid, while still allowing for a smooth game navigation. The well shaft was a 58-meter vertical passage that connected the descending corridor to the grand gallery above. There is much speculation over the purpose of the well shaft. One theory is that the channel was cut or enlarged to supply air to workers in the descending passage. Another is that it was meant to provide an exit route once the work was done in the heart of the pyramid. Without the well shaft, workers would have been trapped inside forever when the grand gallery was sealed. The opening at the bottom of the well shaft was most likely sealed by exiting workers to camouflage the passageway.
Interesting.
There is a subterranean chamber at the end of the descending corridor, 30 meters below the Giza Plateau's surface. Dug directly into the bedrock, the space is wide with a ceiling 3 meters in height. Its floors and walls are rough and uneven, indicating that it was never completed. At the south end of the room, there is another narrow corridor, similar to the others, though it abruptly ends after roughly 20 meters. The chamber also contains an 11-meter pit near the east side.
You're telling me.
It's unclear what this may have been used for. In the game, this well leads to a fictive underground complex containing key game-related mysteries.
Well, interesting. Let's see if we can gain any information at all on the pit, the Great Pyramid Subterranean Chamber Pit. There's gonna be a lot of information out there, I would expect. The pit carved into the bedrock. It has intrigued researchers due to its unfinished appearance and unclear purpose. Its floor is uneven and rugged, and with trenches and pits that suggest incomplete excavation. Okay. A square pit, often called the bottomless pit. The purpose of a corridor remains unclear. A narrow passage exits from the south wall of the chamber, ascends horizontally for about 53 feet before ending in a blank wall. Unlike the polished granite used in higher chambers, the subterranean chamber features rough limestone work, indicating it was left unfinished. Currently closed to public access. Purpose and theories. So, what do they say? Some Egyptologists believe that it was initially intended as Pharaoh Khufu's burial site, but was abandoned in favor of chambers higher up in the pyramid. That does not seem... I mean, it would be really somewhere else. Like, I mean, clearly in a different area, which kind of makes it feel like it has a lot of weight to it. That could be the case. But what, again, then, like, looking at it another way, what evidence do we have of that? Symbolic role. Other scholars propose that it represents a symbolic cavern associated with Sokar, an ancient Egyptian death god. Now that could be something. This suggests a ritualistic or symbolic significance rather than a functional burial space. I don't think if they were going to do a burial space, they were going to get this far and then leave it unfinished. So, I mean, the burial space is the whole point of anything functional regarding the afterlife, which we know they placed at great importance. So, I don't have a word for that. As the hierarchy would be, there's no way that from the top down that they would let it go. Or to put it in different words, they would have the lowest worker to the highest manager to the people in power or in charge would make sure that this would get addressed correctly, if that makes sense. A backup chamber. Another theory posits that this served as a backup burial chamber in case Khufu died before construction of the upper chambers was completed. Really interesting theory, which may not be wrong. And so as a backup, you don't really need anything to be concrete, no pun intended. You could basically say, yep, we did it, yep, Khufu, yep, we put him in there, yep, he's got his thing, yep, we didn't finish that thing, but there he went, you know? So, like, it kind of could be. It's a little comical, but also it's serious in the sense that it's more... what's the word you would use? It's more realistic, or to put it a different way, it's more utilitarian? Is that the right term? They changed their mind. It could have been burial shifted to higher chambers. And that could be, but... And it could just be somebody made a decision that actually affected the way that things went. Could this have been an early construction phase? Or served a practical purpose, such as drainage? I don't think so. Airflow? I don't think so. Drainage? I mean... yeah? But, again, show us proof of where the drainage would have kind of gone through and down to. Then it makes a lot more sense. Right now, it's just like, maybe. Is this symbolic representation? No. I mean, yeah, in a sense that maybe it deals with the god, but no in the sense of, oh, look, it's rats. No in the sense that this is way too much done to say that it's just for symbolic sake.
The subterranean chamber's original purpose remains a mystery. One popular theory is that it was originally meant to be Khufu's burial chamber, but the pharaoh changed his mind, preferring to be buried higher up in the pyramid, which would explain the chamber's unfinished state.
Yeah, it could have just been the whim of the mind change of, never mind that, let's do it this way, but...
Welcome to the riddles.
Okay, so this is where we are. In relation to the Great Pyramids. Okay, so we're here. Boom, boom.
Of the Sphinx. A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal possessed, namely its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority. By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the Dromus, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples.
What was that last point?
A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king,
Protectors of the path taken
the
by the
human
gods
head,
to reach
wearing
the
pharaonic
temples.
regalia.
Interesting.
Over the centuries, enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Jedefre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun. Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and architecturally similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors, Jedefre and Khafre. These arguments are based on the stylistics of the engraving, the typology of the nemes, and the absence of a beard at the time of construction. While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time unfortunately destroyed the glorious colors of the Sphinx of Giza. Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand, and very finely crushed hematite. Red had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death. It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men, while yellow was used for women. It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule, as indicated by notes on the inventory stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time. Dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, The Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width. In order to bring polish to the imposing monument, several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hal, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic. The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Mukutam Plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located. The degradation of the Sphinx is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor. The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone. Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument. "12 meters long and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx aroused curiosity. Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. It was rediscovered by Howard Vise and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This entrance at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
Super interesting, actually. Oh shit. What the hell? This is crazy. Can't see anything in here. Wow. Okay. There's a lot going on in here. Wow. I don't know. I gotta get out of here. Damn it. Because, okay, well, I guess I can go through that kind of quick.
Welcome to the Riddles of the
Okay, it
Sphinx.
remembers where I left off. Thank goodness for that. Seemed like there was an upper area. I don't know if I should try going back there.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated.
Unsubstantiated.
The first of the main theories as to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. The second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx had existed on the site itself, possibly even in paired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way.
No, but it's a really good theory.
Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx. What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two very different matters. Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the Most Divine. It is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza was partially buried under the sand during his reign, Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance. Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horemakhet to pay homage to Khufu and Khafre, his predecessors. It became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with their royal courts at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen. Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left marks of their passage in a similar fashion, sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender. While sleeping between the Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the god Horamakhet proclaiming his coming accession on the throne of the two lands. This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god, and should thus never be engulfed by the sands of the desert. The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had, yet again, covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times. That same year, Caviglia discovered fragments of the Sphinx's beard that had probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's headdress. It is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx. A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training. However, engravings from before the time of that campaign already depicted the Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been removed before the French campaign. The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar could not stand this vision of the monument, and in an iconoclastic act, broke the nose of the Sphinx. According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
Here lies a statue of great Khafre, the glorious, the respected one, under the protection of Ra. As he dreamed... Wait, let me see. Prince Thutmose traveled here and rested under its shadows. He dreamed the great god spoke to him. Watch me, son, for I am your father. Examine my body, left for ruins like a dying person. The desert that I used to rule now defies me. Before all who live, I will grant you the crown when you have relieved me of my burden. Okay, really good stuff. Let's see. We've covered a lot. Greek pharaohs. see where this takes us.
Welcome to Cleopatra.
Let's see where we are. Alexandria. Okay.
Queen of Egypt. Cleopatra VII Theophilopator ascended the throne in 51 BCE at the age of 18. Though her early attempts to maintain power were often challenged, she eventually prevailed and became the sole ruler of Egypt. According to Plutarch, she was the only Ptolemaic pharaoh to speak the Egyptian language. Her intelligence, coupled with a good education and a great political mind, allowed her to make the alliances necessary to maintain the independence of Egypt while Rome was becoming a Mediterranean empire. It is important to understand that Cleopatra's knowledge of Egyptian language and keen understanding of the culture allowed her to make powerful ideological referents that resonated with ancient Egyptians. By associating herself with the goddess Isis, the Divine Mother, Great of Magic, and repository of divine essence, Cleopatra firmly established herself as the protector of the two lands and legitimized her place on the throne. Upon his death in 51 BCE, Ptolemy XII Aulus bequeathed his kingdom to his daughter and eldest son, Cleopatra VII and Ptolemy XIII. As was custom, the siblings were married. The new pharaoh was 10 years old, his sister wife 17. The early years of their reign were not easy. Between 50 and 48 BCE, droughts and floods aggravated Egypt's problems. General Achilles and the royal advisor Pothinos kept intervening in the young ruler's political decisions and eventually colluded to turn Ptolemy XIII against Cleopatra. By 48 BCE, Cleopatra was in exile. During Cleopatra's exile, the Roman Empire was not without its own internal conflict. Caesar and Pompey were at war with one another, and after his defeat in 48 BCE, Pompey fled to Alexandria in the hope of finding refuge. This turned out to be an unwise decision. Listening to his advisors, Ptolemy XIII elected to have Pompey assassinated, his head kept as a gift, in the hopes of acquiring Caesar's favor. This gambit backfired. Instead of earning approval, the murder of a Roman greatly angered Caesar. Cleopatra, aware of Caesar's anger against Ptolemy for the murder of Pompey, decided to take advantage of the situation. She returned to Egypt in secret, hoping to establish an alliance with one of the most powerful men of the time. Outside of the legend, where she had herself smuggled into his quarters in a carpet, what exactly happened during that fateful meeting remains a mystery. However, Caesar seemed to see a better ruler for Egypt in Cleopatra than in her young and too easily influenced. Ptolemy XIII was enraged by the turn of events, and his advisors were none too happy to see Cleopatra return. Urged on by General Achilles and Pothinos, in June of 47 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to a son, whom she called Caesarion. Caesar did not accept the boy as his heir, choosing instead his nephew Octavian. Nonetheless, on his return to Rome, Caesar invited the queen and her brother husband to stay in the city. Her presence still drew much disapproval from the Senate. Always a strategist, Caesar left 4 legions in Egypt and a man he trusted to direct Egyptian affairs, giving him control of the wheat supplies essential to Rome. Cleopatra and her entourage remained in Rome until March 44 BCE, when Caesar was... Caesar's most faithful ally, Mark Antony, often visited the Queen of Egypt during his stay in Rome. Unlike most, he recognized the legitimacy of Caesarion, the natural son of Caesar. Antony knew he would need the riches of Egypt in order to fight Octavian and claim the Roman Empire. Cleopatra in return. Despite his marriage to Octavia, Antony remained Cleopatra's lover, and she gave birth to their children. Cleopatra increased her kingdom's territory and started a political propaganda alongside her lover in Egypt and beyond. She hoped to create a Ptolemaic federal empire with Alexander. Octavian managed his own propaganda campaign and succeeded. The Roman people hated Mark Antony and Cleopatra. To avoid the censure the following events remain difficult to confirm due to the many versions and legends around them. It is believed that after hearing a rumor about Cleopatra's suicide, Mark Antony committed suicide himself. He was brought to the queen as he slowly passed away. Knowing that Octavian would have her chained and paraded through Rome in defeat, Cleopatra planned her own suicide. She most likely killed herself with arsenic, though admittedly, the version where she uses an asp to deliver a fatal bite may be considered more dramatic. What happened to the body of Cleopatra is still a mystery.
Ancient mysteries. So we covered the oil. I'm sure it's really important. Various uses of oil. Olive trees were present but scarce. Well, I think that about covers the hearts of what I would have liked to present from their offerings. This is excellent. Really good narration, well written. Obviously, a lot of information that is built upon the archaeology and the history. From what we know, so that it helps us to paint the picture properly. Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom? I don't think I covered that. Which one is that? Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom. It's right here, huh? There is that. Probably that pyramid should be covered. Because it's just... I'll go over that one as I wrap up today. I just wanted to see this kind of area in the desert area a little bit. What is this out here, by the way? See this? There's no information on it. I would generally question, see if I can get any information about it. Desheret. D-E-S-H-E-R-E-T, desert. I will see if anything comes up. So, I have some cool pictures of that area. And, let's see, close this here. The area buried in the sand. Let's see what it says here as we travel that way. Likely refers to one of several significant archaeological discoveries or historical events tied to the sands of Egypt's deserts. Lost Persian army of Cambyses II, one of the most famous stories involving the Persian king's army, which reportedly vanished in the Egyptian desert around 525 BCE. According to Herodotus, a massive sandstorm buried the army of 50,000 soldiers while they were marching toward the Siwa oasis. Archaeological evidence including bones, weapons, and jewelry has been found in the region, suggesting this might be the location of the lost army. Wow, that's pretty serious. Look at that. So we're looking at that while I'm looking at this. Abydos is an ancient site on the edge of Egypt's western desert. Features the burial sites of early kings and temples dedicated to Osiris, the god of the dead. The area includes el-Kab, mother of pots, which served as a royal cemetery during Egypt's early dynastic period. While Abydos is not entirely buried in sand, its proximity to the desert and its archaeological significance makes it noteworthy. Lost Golden City near Luxor. In 2021, archaeologists uncovered a large ancient city buried under desert sands near Luxor. This city dates back to Imhotep III's reign, circa 1354 BCE, and provides insight into daily life during Egypt's Golden Age. Discovery included residential areas, administrative districts, tools, pottery, and tombs. Buried labyrinth. Some researchers speculated about a massive underground labyrinth described in ancient texts that could have served as ceremonial or secret repository. I actually want to... I don't know what it's going to do when I do that. Yeah, it's going to take me back. Forget all that jazz. So that's cool. Let me just finish up now here. See what they have to say. I didn't. Did I cover this? I didn't, right? Or did I?
Welcome to Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom,
Not the Middle Kingdom one, right?
During the Middle Kingdom era, the powerful rulers of the 12th dynasty resumed the tradition of elaborate pyramidal tombs. For example, Amenemhat I built a funerary complex in Lisht, and Senusret II selected the Elahun site in the Fayum. Amenemhat II and Sesostris III, however, cast their favor towards Dashur. Amenemhat III built a pyramid there as well before moving to Hawara in the Fayum. The plundering of tombs in troubled times prompted the architects of the Middle Kingdom to devise increasingly complicated means of security during construction. As such, while the architectural plans of the Hawara pyramid were simpler than the one at Dashur, the means used to protect it from looters were much more elaborate. Beyond the use of blind passages and concealed trapdoors, the architects relied on a system of stone slabs, which were slid into place at the end of construction. These massive stone slabs were meant to permanently block the passageways leading to the funerary chambers. The kings of the 13th dynasty began building their pyramids at Masguna, south of Dashur, then moved on to Fayum and Abydos. The kings of the 17th dynasty, however, satisfied themselves with crowning their cave tombs with small pyramids of raw brick. The kings of the 18th dynasty gave up the shape of the pyramid as a royal tomb entirely. They chose a mountain with a pyramidal shape in the Valley of Kings and dug their graves there.
Interesting.
It was not until the Nubian pharaohs of the 25th dynasty that kings were once again buried under pyramidal tombs. In fact, today, the area of ancient Nubia, modern Sudan, contains a record number of 220 known pyramids to Egypt's 138. Despite their slow decline in use and quality, pyramids continued to fascinate all and sundry up to the Roman era. They remain to this day a symbol of the religious dedication of the pharaohs and the grandeur of ancient Egypt.
Interesting, they have these spots that you can semi-interact with. There's that guy right there. Look at that right there. They're having a good time. Got another thing down there in the pits. It's cool. Hope you enjoyed that. Interact with it. And I'll catch you on the next journey, adventure, or education, as it were. Can I actually utilize this? I don't think I can. I could do that. Do I know where I'm going? I like to think I know where I'm going. This is cool. Look at this. I could, well, anyway, I kind of want a bird's eye view, and I could literally become a bird, but sometimes it's fun to use stuff that's set up for you, huh? Okay, there is a purpose, though, for what I wanted to see, and I can't see what I wanted to see. Oh, there they are. So what I was trying to look at were these monuments here. You see, as you can see them from Egypt, and then how it's supposed to look at that time period. So it has like this, I don't know, it looks like gold. Gold is filled in and at the tops of them. Very interesting. So that's kind of cool. Something. I think I see some more. Oops, sorry, going for too fast there. I think I see some more in the distance over there. It's really hard to see, but right, straight over there in the middle of the screen, exactly, there seems to be two more. It's kind of interesting. Maybe one of these fast travels might show very quickly in just seconds. Now, usually these are in a little bit more of a bird's eye view, so let's see if it takes me there. This one is not. It's kind of in the middle of here, so I can't see it too well. Maybe this one with the bird on it might give me a bird's eye view. That makes a little bit of sense internally. That's what I wanted to see right there. So there's two more right there. So there you go. That truly is the end. I'm cutting it here. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you liked it. And have a good day. Have a good day. Special thank you to all the 100 people out there on X. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed it. Truly.